first thing you need to know, I have multiple personality disorder, MPD, and it's not too bad. Don't feel sympathy, but the good thing is I only have one other personality that I'm dealing with. There's just two of us. And the bad thing is, though, the other guy is a stand-up comedian. And he just shows up whenever he wants to. You never know what's going to happen. It's very disconcerting, right? I can't monetize him, because if you go down to the improv, get to the mic, he's standing there. He's not there. He's not showing up. He comes when he wants to. So he's a problem today because this lecture is going to get a little intense. It's going to get a little dark, because I'm here to tell you what's going on, and I'm not going to mince any words. So but it's okay, because he showed up a little earlier this morning. I gave him a Xanax. He'll be asleep in about 10 minutes. The second thing you need to know is that everything I say this morning is nonpartisan, right? It is nonpartisan. So if something seems that way, I understand that you might take it that way. All I can say is this is nonpartisan, right? And I've always been that way, and I'm always going to stay that way regarding to this effort. So this is one of my favorite images. I captured it with a Samsung Galaxy, I think. I forget the camera that I used. It's spectacular. And the reason is it's perfect. That is the Andromeda Galaxy, right? And this, I think, is something called the capital of the United States, yes, in Washington, D.C. And the galaxy is behind it. And that's what we're in. And that's where we're going to be engaging, maybe very soon. But standing in our way is politics. That's a great image, too, I stole that. That's perfectly representative of what's going on. We need to get there, metaphorically, but maybe one day for real, but we need to go through that building. And guess what? We are. It is very, very close. So, I titled this talk, A New World, If You Can Take It. Now, I don't know if that phrase comes from way back. It could have come from way back. But the first time I ever heard it was in the early 90s with the emergence of Philip Corso, a gentleman who worked with intelligence. He was a high-level individual involved in World War II. And then when he got back, he got involved with matters that connected to our issue, the ET issue, and got very much involved. And eventually, when he was quite old, you're going to see a pattern here, he decides he wants to come forward. He works with Bill Burns. They writes a book, Day After Roswell. There were some flaws and so forth, but there was basically what we needed to know. He confirmed essentially Roswell, confirmed the presence of bodies, but there was a film that he made for his grandchild to be showed to her only after, and I may have this right, but it's close enough, after he died. And in this film, he tells a story about he was out at the facilities, doesn't matter which one, White Sands, whatever the area, and a vehicle was forced to land due to the radar situation, which is something that's come up. And he went out to check on the situation, right? And he gets out there, and there is I think he goes into a cave, or he's outside of a cave, and there is an ET there. Again, this is what he's telling her. And this is not some story. I think he's telling her what happened. And so the ET conveys to him, telepathically, of course, that really needs to take off. I got to get home late for dinner, and you need to turn the radars off so I can leave. Okay? There was a lot of talk about the fact that radars back then was affecting some of these craft. They might not have been as sophisticated as some others. And so Philip says to him, okay, but what's in it for us? And the ET says to him, telepathically, a new world if you can take it. And so that came out in the early 90s, and it really grabbed this, okay? It doesn't even matter if it's a true story. I don't know why it wouldn't be. I just can't imagine that, but just on its face. A new world if you can take it. Which brings up the question of why do we need a new world? All right? And that's a very good question. So we're going to talk about that today. And it's going to get kind of serious. I am not a journalist. Journalists have a lot of protocols that they have to follow to be professional journalists, things you just don't do. And that's fine. And they adhere to those. We have some fantastic journalists here, not the least of which is Ross Coulthart, who is now almost like leading the effort in a major way, but there are others that have done tremendous work, Leslie Kane, Ralph Blumenthal, and so forth. But they have certain protocols. I am not a researcher. Researchers have protocols. A way go about things, how you present it, you've got a scientific method, whatever, but they have a framework. I'm an activist. I ain't got no stinking protocols. Right? I can pretty much do anything I want and say anything I want, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's the nature of activism. And for most of the ET era, which I consider starting in basically 47 with Roswell, there have been very few what we'll call pure activists. I grew up in an extraordinary time. I came of age, or left high school, 1964, and from that point on, I'm just watching one of the major activist decades in American history. There wasn't anything that wasn't being protested. Everything was being protested. It got extremely intense, huge, relentless. Multiple issues were in play. It was a great time for activists and activism. Some wins, some losses, right? But there was also something else. There was violence. A lot of violence. And one of the things about this movement that I am so proud of, this movement, again, it's really getting more activists in the last 25 years, really starting around 1990, but even going back all the way to the beginning, because there was some of that going back to the 40s. I am not aware of a single act of violence by anybody in this field, researcher, activist, journalist. I'm not aware of a single one. If there is one, somebody should, bring it to my attention and say, did you know about this? 78 years. Why? Well, I think the best reason is the issue is just too profound. It's too extraordinary. It transcends politics. It transcends religion. And it instills a certain respect, maybe awe, and the idea that you want to do something violent to try to move it forward is absurd. And one of the things we've learned in the 20th century, which had some of the most massive activist movements of all time, violence gives you a little short-term gain, very long-term pain. It doesn't work, all right? And that's just one of many things that don't work. So I divide up the modern era of this phenomena into two parts. It starts, I believe, with Roswell. It's as good as place as any. You could, but nah, it's Roswell. And we go from Roswell, which is 47, to 1991. So essentially that's 44 years, okay, I think. And then from 1992 on. So it's two parts. They're very different. And the other thing I think you need to know, if you haven't thought of it, is the last 78 years has been really intense. It has been 78 years like nothing the human race has ever seen. It's absolutely amazing. You look back in history and you see this and you see that, it's kind of cool. Something happened in Rome. There was a battle over in the Middle East, or the battle in the Pacific, some fleets of Chinese trying to invade Japan, whatever. In the last 78 years, the things that have happened is mind-boggling, and it's why I think it's hard not to have some anxiety. Back in the day, things didn't change much. Yeah, every day was pretty much the same, and as long as nobody invaded, you were fine, and you just went on. Your kids had the same life, and wait, no. 78 years, from 47 on. For example, now we're going to go big picture, and this is another thing you need to know. There are lots of activists and a lot of activism going on all the time. Most of it you don't even know about, but it's there. You dig deep on, and there's something going on in this city and that city and maybe a state or whatever. There's lots of activism happening. This country owes enormous debt to every one of those activists because they have helped shape the country we're in, and by and large, they're usually doing the right thing. All right. So it's always happening. There's a lot of that going on. Fine. But when you get to the big issues, the really tough ones, well, it's a little harder. And so when I split this up in half to those two parts, there wasn't much activism in the first half from 47 to 92. Very, very little. A little here, a little there. It starts with the second half in 92. We'll get back to that. All right? So the other thing you need to know is that while I'm an activist, I'm focused on the big picture. I just don't care about that sighting, this witness, this might turn up, this story, and trying to run it to ground. Is it true? Is it not true? Right? And if it isn't, they're gonna pay. And all. I don't care about it. The issue of the presence of these non-humans has been proven many times over. Hell, it was pretty much established by common sense in 1947-48 when Keogh gave a little interview after the 52 UFO flap over the Capitol and just said there's extraterrestrials here. He was dead right. It wasn't hard to figure it out. Common sense told you that, right? So my role, I finally decided, was to focus on the big picture, to focus on the broader situation, to try to convey it to people who haven't had a chance to read 400 or 500 books on UFOs, haven't been to 6 conferences, haven't seen the documentaries. Every person in this country and in this world is going to have to deal with this issue. The government and the implicit support of the other nations in the Western world have kept it from you. They've denied it. They say there's nothing there. So there is a huge number of people that took that as truth. That's fine, went about their lives, but now this issue is coming to them. And they need to know. And so my job is to convey that to basic people, what is going on, not to try to prove anything. And the audience for that is growing fast, all right? So big picture, which is why I'm in this issue, because the big picture is not looking good. Not looking good at all. I'm not saying that in the moment, you're having a great life, everything is fine on an individual basis, but collectively, planetary-wise, really, really bad, which is why there have been countless movies that are apocalyptic. We call them apocalyptic movies, with all of the stuff that you expect, as well as now huge streaming series, hundreds of issues, where you see people wandering around in an apocalyptic world, eating things or each other, whatever. So that's the big picture. And then the question is there a connection between what we're very much afraid is coming our way and the ET issue? And it turns out there is. So that's an even bigger picture. So now I'm having fun. I mean, this is really great. And this starts to come to me in the late 90s, early aughts. I start to get a sense of what's going on. So with respect to big picture, now let me point out a couple of things. Starting with Roswell, 1947. The population of the world was 2.3 billion. Pretty nice number, not bad. Plenty of parking spaces. Right? Since then, the number of people born into the world, it's a consensus figure, it's not precise, but it's the one that a number of research entities have dropped into or accepted, is 90 billion. 90 billion people were born into the world since Roswell. Every single one of them needing care, food, clothing, housing, right? Structure, everything that you need to be a sentient being. The net result was we have now 8.1 billion people. So even that, the population has increased 6 billion people in 78 years. The world's never seen it. Never seen this. But what people don't consider, because that's never brought up, is how many people were present. Turns out it was 90 billion. 90 billion people. That's a lot of food, clothing, housing, structure, in order for them to lead a proper life. Apparently, it didn't go that well, because we ended up with a net of 8.3. Where did the other 82 billion go? Well, some of them died a natural death, but huge numbers of them just didn't live that long. They didn't have food, clothing, shelter, or they were in the midst of God knows what awful stuff was going on, and they were being killed off. Pretty intense. 75 years, 82 billion, not here now. And the question is, well, why? Why not? I mean, look at the technology we have and the economies and so forth that we have. Okay. Here's another number that you probably never thought about. It's a tricky one to research, but I have Google. Never fails me. And eventually I'm going to get into AI. I've been putting it off for now 7 years, like I put off getting into crypto for like 20, which is one of the reasons why I definitely need to do these conferences. Blockchain. I have a degree in physics, and they're trying to explain blockchain to me. And I said, what the hell? Quantum mechanics is easier than this. Can I make money on quantum mechanics? Too late. Oh my God, I think the guy is waking up. This is not good. Shut him down.